Good evening, folks. This is Andy Pedraza with Special Effects Academy, and we're on the July 28th start of the week session for the Forex trading room. Sorry for starting out so late today. I was at the racetrack having fun. It happens only a couple of times a year. I live very close to a NASCAR racetrack, and I took the opportunity. So apologies for not sticking to schedule, but here we are a little bit later than usual. We'll go through our regular agenda, a look at the prior week, our currency strength meter, fundamental announcement calendar, analysis of the major pairs on the daily charts, in progress, and a few words in conclusion. This is technically end of month for us. We go by the calendar that's normally in accounting practices, which is that the Thursday of the week belongs to whatever month it's in. So Thursday of this week is August. So this entire week is the first week of August as far as fiscal month is concerned. So this week is end of month. We will be at some point presenting monthly results. I didn't calculate them this time around, but that's coming. So I'll probably present them next week, but be advised that this week that's starting belongs to August. We'll take a look at our ledgers. This is the long-term ledger. We've got two trades that were open this week. Both of them remain open. They were slightly down as of close of market on Friday, but not significantly so. And again, this is meant to be long-term. So we're not really worried about what happens in terms of weeks, more in terms of months. The intermediate ledger had a pretty flat week. We were slightly down by less than a percentage point based on trades closing against us. We had winners as well, but we had some losses, specifically on the Euro New Zealand, which went into a significant retrace. Indeed, the Kiwi lost a lot of ground this week, but we'll cover that when we get to the charts. But overall, I think we were at 30.05% gains realized on this account last week, and right now we're 29.6. Again, less than a percentage point. It is what it is, but we do have open trades that are at profit, so that's already making up for it. And last but not least, our short-term account had a pretty decent week. We were upwards of 6% in realized gains. This is the account that is always all cash going into the weekend, so no open trades. This is all money that's been banked. So we were up significantly thanks to, really thanks to mostly the dollar. The dollar did a significant strength movement throughout the week. We had some losses as well. Obviously, you can never win every single trade, but our winners did far outpace our losers in terms of pips. So a very good week on the short term. Notice an opportunity for improvement. As I said, nice recovery week on the short term. No significant change on the other two accounts. This is the first full week of Boris Johnson as the UK's PM. And already there are wheelings and dealings happening in the background, some to sabotage his plans for Brexit, some to advance them. Some say, indeed, that Boris Johnson's plan for Brexit is a sabotage in and of itself. But again, these are the normal back and forth in politics anywhere. But it does look like the pound is in for some really, really rocky movements in the weeks and months coming up in between now and the end of October, which is still the deadline for, well, the latest deadline for Brexit. And of course, we have some key interest rates coming out this week, which we'll review when we look at our calendar. Relative strength meter for the past month and the past week, we can see that silver continues to be the big outperformer. Indeed, most of the movement in the deeper colors you can see on the charts belong to silver, especially in the monthly. And it had another very good week where it outperformed everybody else. The Kiwi, as we pointed out, had the worst week it's had in quite a while, so significant retracement on Kiwi. The yen was pretty middle of the pack. The pound had a reasonably flat week, except for Friday when it seemed to collapse on itself. but it did gain ground against the Swiss, the Aussie, and the Kiwi. The euro did lose ground significantly against the dollar and was relatively flat against the other currencies. The Swiss had a significant retracement back into Swiss weakness, but not significantly to the point where it broke any of the bearish movement. But still, it was a pretty deep retracement. The CAD was middle of the pack, won against some, lost against others. Nobody won against the dollar to any significant degree, except for silver. So the dollar was still the clear winner, and the CAD reflected that. And the Aussie also had a very poor showing, only outperforming the Kiwi. And that's where we are with our relative strength meter for the week. Let's move on to the calendar. We've got quite a few significant events happening. Bank of Japan interest rate on Monday evening, so tomorrow, scheduled for 10 p.m. I don't believe them. It's probably going to be 11, could be midnight, but we'll see how we play this one. We may have to convene and reconvene a few times before we actually get it. On Wednesday, we have the Fed interest rate position as well as the monetary policy statement at 2 p.m. We're going to be meeting a little bit earlier on that day. And at 2:30, we have the FOMC press conference. That's going to be a key day for the dollar, especially as a rate cut is widely expected from the Fed. Then Thursday, early in the morning, we have the Bank of England interest rate decision. With everything happening with the UK right now, this becomes a significant event. No change is expected, but even a no change has the potential to move the market at this point, just because the pound is so stressed. The last vote was unanimous. So if we do have any change in votes, that would be significant even if the actual rate remains unchanged. And of course, on Friday, we do have the non-farm payroll coming out of the US. So quite a busy calendar. And that means we also have to be very careful with our trading, because all these events have the ability to add significant volatility to the market. And especially for the short term, you don't want to be caught on the wrong side of that. Oil is, moving on to the charts, I should have said. Oil had a relatively flat week. It's still tracking the underside of Ichimoku cloud, in between two trend lines, in between two horizontal levels of support resistance. So it took a breather this week. It's obviously we're going to be waiting for some geopolitical event to happen that shocks oil again. For now, it looks like it's achieved a level it's happy at, and it may go sideways for a while. Euro dollar. As mentioned earlier, the euro had a very bad week against the dollar. Indeed, most all currencies had a pretty bad week against the dollar, but the euro had a devastating one. So we had a very strong crash on this pair towards the beginning of the week, and that continued into Friday. A little bit of an attempt at a retrace on Thursday, which didn't last. Gave us a new lower low, one we haven't seen in the entire visible portion of this chart, and it's back within a decidedly bearish channel. So everything is screaming sell, but we got to be careful. There may be yet another retracement, and all in all, even though it broke the low, it didn't break it by a lot. So it's still hugging a bottom level of support, and we need to let it break completely before we go all in. Dollar, it didn't have a bad week, except against the dollar. Everybody had a bad week against the dollar. It did give us a lower low here on the daily chart, but not a significantly lower low, much like the euro dollar. So a very flat week, except for Friday when the pound collapsed completely against the dollar. We'll be looking for opportunities this week to see if any of that continues. We're already in these trades with the pound, and we have pending orders for most of the pairs. Were actually all of them except pound CAD. Pound CAD is the only one I'm not trading, and I'll get to that when I get to that chart. But for now, we're either already short on the pound, or we have pending orders to take it short if we do see a decent movement. USDJPY hugging the top part of a sideways range, and we're looking at dollar strength, which means that it is heading up, and that's what it did this week that just ended. It's in the middle of the Ichimoku cloud. We already are in this trade on the intermediate term account, and we'll continue to be there. We'll see. We'll see what it gives us. For now, it's still too soon to tell. USD Canadian, thanks to dollar strength, it did break out of the trend line, the downward trend line it's been following. It's still underneath the Ichimoku cloud, but we did see a significant retracement this week, making this pair go bullish and revisiting some of the prior levels of support resistance. It's still bearish overall, but a decidedly bullish week. You know me, I've said it before. I think the CAD is going to get stronger over time. So I'm still looking for opportunities to trade this one down, but I'm not too unhappy that I passed on it this week that just ended. USD Swiss, another significant retracement, didn't quite break the prior high, but it did go back into the Ichimoku cloud, also giving it a pass until it turns around. I'm still, again, much like the CAD, I'm very bullish on the Swiss itself, which means I expect this chart to go down, but I'll wait for the right opportunity. Aussie dollar completely crashed. I mean, there's not a single bullish candle the whole week. This was one of our main money makers on the short-term account. We caught it from the beginning of the week. It's still not where I would short it longer term until it breaks back into that wedge. And preferably breaks out towards the bottom, giving us a lower low. It's getting very close, but not quite there. We did see, or we did take about 100 pips on that movement this week that just ended, so that was good. The Kiwi dollar, we already said it. The Kiwi was the clear loser of the week, and it also collapsed quite nicely. Not a bullish candle in sight, and it did break back into that wedge. It's getting to the point where I would start considering a longer term short on this pair. We'll have to see what we see towards the beginning of this week and see what we want to do with it. Aussie Canadian also gave us a nice drop. So you can see that the CAD, while it weakened against the dollar, actually gained strength against most of the other currencies. And of course, the Australian and the Kiwi were key losers for the week. This was another pair that gave us a nice bit of profit on the short-term account. And if it continues going down, it's going to start being a good candidate for a longer-term play. Euro Swiss, a disappointing retrace. Didn't break the trend, though, but it did bounce off the bottom of the channel. So I'm still bearish on this pair. I still want to trade it down, but I need to wait for a breakout towards the bottom, breaking out of that channel, and I'll have to go short again. I think we gave up a few pips on the short-term account on this pair. Not enough to hurt us. It was a great week for the short term, but still, it did an unexpected retrace. Euro pound, this is the 1 pound trade. We're in the euro pound, we're in long. This is one of the riskier trades. It just bounced over the Ichimoku cloud, and I took that as a signal to go long. The coming week or three is going to tell us whether I did right or not, but I had to take that trade. It was a decisive bounce off the top of the Ichimoku cloud, which acted as support, and it is now heading back up. We ended the week slightly in profit, not significantly, but slightly. And of course, we're going to be very closely monitoring the situation with the pound and the euro as the week begins. Euro JPY, it broke support, but quickly bounced back above it. This is one of our trades on the long-term account, and it is carrying a little bit of a deficit, but not much. And again, it's still looking very bearish. Euro Canadian, we've been avoiding this one. It is very flat, not doing much of anything. It did break the bottommost level of support this week, but that didn't last. It climbed above pretty quickly. So again, it's starting to look good for a longer-term play, but we're going to be waiting for a clearer signal. Pound JPY, this is another one where we're waiting for that next break. We have a pending order on this one, so that is just a matter of waiting. I'm sure it will give us a good opportunity. Aussie JPY flat and not doing much, but we also have a pending order for if and when it breaks out of that Ichimoku cloud it's in right now. And again, the start of the week is going to tell us if this is the week or if we're just going to be keeping that one open as a pending order for another while. Euro New Zealand, probably the biggest disappointment, and this was our one or two losing trades on the intermediate term account. Again, we had other trades that covered it, so not a huge concern. But boy, did the Kiwi weaken for no good reason at all against everybody else. So we're going to be waiting for another opportunity to short it. These opportunities come all the time, so game of patience here. Pound Canadian, this is the 1 pound pair. I'm not looking for entries right now. Both currencies are either weakening or going flat, so I may enter it at some point. Depends what happens, but for now, I'm not looking for anything. And last but not least, for Pound Swiss, a very flat week for the Pound Swiss. We're already in this trade. I think it's the third or fourth time we enter that trade. Every single time at huge profit as we've captured the bulk of that collapse. And it's probably going to be continuing. So we're going to be hanging on to that one and letting it play out. That is the end of the charts. Our setups in progress for this week. Obviously, the pound pairs. We've got a new PM. This is his first full week as a PM. We've got an interest rate announcement coming out, and Brexit is still looming on the horizon. Be careful with the pound. It could retrace spectacularly just on the slightest bit of good news, but in general, I'm still bearish on the pound and will continue trading down carefully, safely, but down nonetheless. Switzerland, the Swiss pairs had a bit of a retrace this week. We've covered that in the charts, but that's to be expected. Nothing goes down in a straight line. They zig and they zag. So we're waiting on the next zag to get back in. The CAD pairs, the Canadian dollar isn't giving up. It did retrace against a couple of currencies, most significantly against the US dollar, but otherwise held on to its price range. So it's really not going anywhere. It's still looking for a movement into Canadian strength, which I'm sure is coming at some point. And we'll continue looking for those opportunities. USD pairs. The USD, as far as my opinion goes, and take that with a grain of salt, is stressed. Even though it had a fantastic week into dollar strength, I think that we're on the brink of something happening and the dollar giving up a good chunk of the territory it's captured. We have a key interest rate coming out this week out of the U.S., and everybody expects there to be a rate cut. So that's already been priced into the market, and also a policy statement coming out at the same time. So careful with the dollar this week. By all means, trade the fundamental, trade your systems, but be very careful. And euro pairs, they continue to trend down, making lows that we haven't seen in more than a year. And I see no reason for that to change. So we'll be continuing to look for euro weakness plays, except against the pound. Against the pound, I'm bullish on the euro. And that is it as regards the forecast and setups and this, that, and the other. And some words here in parting. And we stress this a lot, but you, as traders, we need to control ourselves. You can't let the market control you or the market play you. We go on and on here about your mindset being the most important thing, and it is. Granted, that alone isn't going to win the day. You have to have other things. You have good risk control. You have to have a system. You have to have equity management. There's a ton of stuff you need to have. But mindset is going to be your most important tool. It's going to be your multi-use tool. If everything else lets you down, if you forget your screwdriver one day, mindset is going to work for you and it's going to fill that gap. You do need to have the other stuff, but mindset is going to take you at least half the way. Don't ever let your last trade dictate the next one. And what do I mean by that? I mean that if you have a losing trade, don't revenge trade. Don't try to make that money up, money back in a single trade. That's where most traders go into a death spiral when they're trying to chase what they just lost. Follow your system. Losing trades are normal. Not every trade is going to be a winner. And I repeat this until I'm blue in the face, because I continue seeing people, even when they tell me, yeah, I know that, they're still looking for the magic system. So don't be that guy. Realize that not every trade is going to be a winner, and that when you lose, you don't need to make that money back in the next trade. Just continue following your system. The money's going to come back. I've been down 20, 30% at different points in a year, and then I make the money back. I don't let it get to me. Warren Buffett has been down 50% multiple times throughout his career investing and trading, and he just keeps doing what he's doing, and the money has always come back. So don't let anything in the market dictate what you are going to do. Follow your system. That applies also when you have a winning trade. If you have a winning trade, don't assume that you're a genius and the next 5 trades are all going to be winners, because then you're going to take risks that you should not be taking. Your risk has to be dictated by your system, and you don't deviate from it. Save your emotions for your next significant life event. You got married, your kid got married, your kid had a baby and you're a grandparent, or you had a baby and you're a parent, or God forbid, you lost somebody. That's when you need to be grieving, or you need to be happy, depending on the life event. But the market isn't the life event. Have a system and don't deviate from it. That's going to be it for me for today. Again, apologies, this came out late, but I was busy having fun. Any comments or questions from anyone before we drop off? Okay, and thank you very much. It's been fun, and I will see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Have a good one.